こんばんは。Hello YouTube. I was practicing my listening. I will try to imitate. I will follow the transcript. I will, this is kind of shadowing, overshadow. I will follow and imitate to practice my listening. From ACAN, this is 2022 second time and listening part 4. Okay, let's go. Thank you for listening.
Record shops. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in.
Today we're talking to
Aisha Chopra.
Welcome, Aisha.
Welcome, Aisha.
Thanks for having me.
me.
Could you tell us a little about
Could you tell us a little about what you do?
Sure. I
Sure.
own and manage
Own and manage
two shops
two shops
that deal in vintage
deal
vinyl
in-
records
that deal in vintage vinyl records
and music merchandise,
and music merchandise,
mainly from the
mainly from
1960s,
1970s and 80s.
I opened my first
I opened my first shop
shop just over 15
just over 15 years ago.
years ago, and my second
And
one
my
5 years
second
ago.
was 5 years ago. Interesting.
how did you get
How
into
did you-
this kind of work?
How did you get
My-
into this kind of work?
My parents would always play music
My parents would always play music
in the house.
in the house,
So I kind of
I kind of
grew up
grew up listening
listening
to
to
old
old
bands
bands
and musicians like Janis Joplin,
The Doors,
The Doors, and the Beatles,
stuff like that.
that.
Plus,
Plus,
my
my
dad
dad-
loved to collect old
My dad loved to correct
stuff,
old stuff,
which he kept
which
all
he-
over the
which he kept all over the house.
house. T-shirts from
T-shirts
famous concerts,
from famous
posters
concerts, posters of rock stars,
books, magazines,
and of course,
thousands
of old records.
Then, when I
Then,
was around
when I
8 or
was-
9 years old,
When I was around 8 or 9 years old,
he would take me
he
to
would take me to
fairs
shows and
where all
fairs
this
where
stuff was
all-
on sale.
where all of this stuff was on sale.
I started using
I
my
started
pocket
using
money
my
to
pocket
buy things,
money to buy things.
and before I knew
And
it,
before I knew
my
it,
collection had grown
my-
substantially.
My collection had grown substantially.
So much so,
So much
I was
so,
running
I
out of
was
space to
running
keep
out
it
of
all.
space to keep it all. はい。早い、めちゃくちゃ早いなって。だいぶ大変だとは思うんですけど。そうですね。例えば、How did you get into this kind of work? ここら辺なんかもうひとまとまりだなと。聞き取りポイント1というかね。How did you get into this kind of work? なんでもいいですよね。How did you get into this kind of music? でもいいし、How did you get into this kind of movie? とか、How did you get into this kind of job? とか、なんかいろいろ使えそうですよね。How did you get into? で、How did you get into this kind of work? で、My parents would always play music. So I kind of grew up listening to all bands って言ってましたね。So my parents would always play music. この would がよくわかんなくて、my parents would always なんで would なんだろうって言ったら、あれか、かつて〇〇してたっていう習慣の would なんやと後で思いましたね。調べて。だからその聞いてるときなかなか気づかないなって思いました。The door stuff like that. Plus, my dad loved to collect all stuff which he kept all over the house. この all over the house も聞き取りづらかったですね。ポイント3。all over the house っていうところ。で、あとまたその後 Then when I was around 8 or 9 years old, he would take me to the shops. He would take me to shows and fairs where all of this stuff was on sale. He wouldがまた出てきて take me to shows and fairs where all of this all of this stuff なんですけど all of this stuff ってつながったように聞こえましたね。 all of this stuff was on sale、I started using my pocket money to buy things, and before I knew it, my collection had grown substantially. So much so, I was running out of space to keep it all. So, I was running out of space to keep it all. ここもめちゃくちゃ早い。ポイント4というか。I was running out of space to keep it all.I was running out of space to keep it all. すごい早いというか、まあ普通なんでしょうね、これが。という感じで、なかなか大変だというところですね。はい、ありがとうございます。聞いていただいて。で、これが英検1級の練習で、いやー、練習をしようということですね。で、あと、敬愛するサンデル先生がいますんで、ちょっとそこをやりたいと思っております。最初だけでもね。できますか？出ますか？敬愛するサンデル先生。読み込み中になってますね。あ、出たかもしれない。One thing the world needs, one thing this country desperately needs, is a better way of conducting our political debates. We need to rediscover the lost art of democratic argument. But if you think about the arguments we have, most of the time it's shouting matches on cable television, ideological food fights on the floor of Congress. I'd like to have a suggestion. Look at all of the arguments we have these days over the healthcare, over bonuses and bailouts on Wall Street, over the gap between rich and poor, over affirmative action and same-sex marriage, lying just beneath the surface of those arguments, with passion raging on all sides, are big questions of moral philosophy, a big question of justice. But we too rarely articulate and defend and argue about those big moral questions in our politics. So what I'd like to do today is having something of a discussion. First, let me take a famous philosopher who wrote about those questions of justice and morality, give you a very short lecture on Aristotle of Athens, Aristotle's theories of justice. And then we have a discussion here to see whether Aristotle's idea actually inform the way we think about argue about the question today. So, you ready for the lecture? According to Aristotle, justice means giving people what they deserve. That's it. That's the lecture. という、ありがとうございます。もうこのサンデル先生の、講義は、これ TED トークから来てます。The Lost Art of Democratic Debate っていう、2010年の2月に公開の、今から13年前か。すごい好きですね、これは。病的に好きで。I like this very much. When I was at university, I almost I imitated this. So passionately. And I was able to memorize most of them. And I had the opportunity to present this lecture in front of the class, in front of the classmates. And that was great memory at my university life. So yeah. So this one, listening from the Aiken book is I do it for practicing, but this one, the Michael Sandel is something I would love to do. I would love to practice. So Yeah, I think it's for me. I think this is a good idea to mix with these two different sources of practice in listening to practice listening and speaking. So one is from Aiken, one is the transcript taken from Aiken, and the other is something taken from my favorite list of speeches. One of the speeches it must be Michael Sandel. I really respect Michael Sandel. So at that time NHK National Broadcasting Service, more than 10 years ago, they had a series of television. They broadcast series of program called Hakunetsu Kyoshitsu. So something to do with discussion and debate in the big classroom. Talking about the themes are moral questions of today. So I was really into it. So at that time I thought it was great to involve with students and people in the classroom and let them participate in the lecture and let them create the classroom together rather than one side teaching in the classroom. So and I still love this content. Still very inspiring. Still very exciting, I think. So and そうなんですよね。じゃあちょっとファーストパラグラフについてちょっと解説をね、誰も求めてないかもしれませんが、自分の好きな解説って、I would like to have some comments and to explain some features from the first paragraph, from one thing to in politics. So one thing the world needs, one thing this country desperately needs is a better way of conducting our political debates. So desperately needs っていうのがすごい desperately needs the very emotional. It's a better way of conducting our political debates. So conduct. So this is a good example of how to use the word conduct. So conduct is like a lead something, guide something. So take the political debates more advanced level. I interpret it that way. And the second line, we need to rediscover the lost art of democratic argument. So just two sentences is finished, but it's quite beautiful so far, I think. How he put it very great, beautifully, I think. And third one, if you think about the arguments we have, most of the time it's shouting matches on cable television, ideological food fights on the floor of Congress. So, if you think about the arguments we have, most of the time it's shouting matches on cable television, ideological food fights on the floor of Congress. はい、shouting matches ということで、叫び合い、ideological food fights。その主張のぶつけ合い、フードファイトっていうのはトマトフードファイトっていうかなんか投げつけたりとかっていうところなんでしょうね。Ideological food fights on the floor of Congress. I have a suggestion. ちょっと提案があるよと。Look at all the arguments we have these days over healthcare, over bonuses and bailouts on Wall Street. この辺、healthcare は健康保険っていうのかな、そういう医療のそういうサービスに対しての議論を考えてみましょうとか。Over bonuses and bailouts on Wall Street はこれはボーナス and bailouts on Wall Street これ金融の言葉でちょっとあまりよくわからない よくわからないなという感じですね。ボーナス and barriers。そのお金のところ。over the gap between rich and poor。これは貧富の差みたいな話をしていて、over affirmative action and same-sex marriage。affirmative action は、積極的、なんていうか、是正措置というか、そういうある差別をなるべくなくしていきましょうみたいな話ですよね。and same-sex marriage は同性婚ですね。非常に面白いなって。その後でその same-sex marriage の同性婚を、認めるべきか認めないべきかみたいなそういう話が出てくるんですけど、そこで一つのアイディアは One idea is in favor of traditional marriage. Only accepts, admits different sex marriage とか、traditional marriage. The purpose is procreation. その子供を産むっていうのが、目的なので、traditional marriage 昔の伝統的な結婚が大事だという意見もあると。で、もう一個が、What is important in the marriage is not only procreation but also the mutual loving commitment. That's what marriage is about っていう、そのお互いに愛し、お互いにその支え合うリスペクトを尊敬心を敬意を持ってお互いに尽くし合う、それが結婚なんじゃないかという意見もなるほどなと。そういうところも戦わせるというか、議論に上がってきて面白いなと思います。でその次の文章 Line just beneath、 ここも超面白い。 Line just beneath っていうこの beneath っていうか under みたいな意味なんでしょうね。 Lying はそのあるっていう意味で Line just beneath the surface of those arguments、 このらの議論のちょうど下にある with passions are raging on all sides、 いろんな感情が巻き起こる big questions of moral philosophy, big questions of justice、 その現代の哲学や、正義っていうのを考える上での大きい問題ですよねとが、そういう議論の下にあると。But we too rarely articulate and argue about those big moral questions in our politics。 私たちはめったにそういう、現代の政治において道徳的な、問題、質問について考えたり議論しないよねと。We too rarely articulate。この articulate というのもここで学びましたね。そのはっきり言わないと、はっきり言うと。もともとは。だけど、rarely がついてるんで、ないということで。はい。Thank you for listening ですね。ありがとうございます。また、練習をしたいと思います。ありがとうございました。失礼します。